Hello everybody and welcome to the Import-Export Hub channel. Bogdan here, your host for the next couple of minutes. I hope you're doing all great, and without losing precious time here, let's dive into today's subject and cover a little bit the imports and the exports for onions with most of the data available for 2020. I do have some data coming from 2021 as well, unfortunately only related to the US imports. But then again, more on this later in the video. And guys, I'm not going to cover, the value chain or how the farmers, the sellers, processors, exporters, and importers are organized, because it would take a lot of time and there are a lot of variations from country to country. But generally speaking, trade, both in terms of imports and exports, is divided in two major types, if you ask me. One suitable for the developing countries and the other one for the developed ones, in which the actors, the quantities, specifications, and so on differ according to the market needs. And of course, the same goes for the inputs like, seeds, fertilizers, or pesticides. And anyways, I'm sure that if you Google value chain for onions, you can find useful information. So if you want to deep dive, please do so, as I'll focus more on the main actors in terms of exports, imports. I will try to give you some data from the United States, and finally I will give you some potential markets that are worth exporting to. So let's officially start by covering the main onion exporters for 2020. Including here onion for sowing, and for me at least, it came as a surprise to see the Netherlands dominating the exports. And just for your information, as the Netherlands is relatively well known for their vegetable inputs, especially in terms of seeds, these make up for only 18%. So even if I'm factoring out sowing onion, Netherlands is still on top of China, which is the second biggest exporter, with some $150 million. On the third place, we have Mexico, followed by India with some 8.5% share in the global exports. And on the fifth place, we have the United States with some $250 million worth of exports. Now, in terms of the total quantity exported in 2020, we have here almost 10 million tons of onions with an average value of $406, which, by the way, guys, this is not the selling price, but a simple division between the value and the quantity of the transaction. So take it with caution, as it is a mere approximation. Now, relative to the annual growth trend, in value between 2016 and 2020, worldwide the value increased with some 6%, and the average distance of the importing countries was close to 2,700 kilometers, or 1,700 miles, something like this, which is understandable given the the perishability of the product. And here it's worth mentioning that the distance is related to all the types of the transport, so we don't have an actual split between land and maritime, for example. And here I have two examples, one concerning the United States, in which the average distance is of 1,950 kilometers, which is pretty accurate if you think about it, that the exports to onions coming from the Midwest of the United States are exported to mainly towards Canada, and the same goes for Iran. And basically, we're getting a pretty good idea that for these two countries, at least, export is mainly regional. Now, moving to the main importers for 2020, here the United States is dominating with some $471 million worth of imports, followed by Malaysia with $211 million. On the third spot, we have the United Kingdom with almost $195 million. And on the fifth place, we have Bangladesh with close to $172 million. Also, here we have also the trade balance, and we see how the Netherlands has by far the biggest positive trade balance, while the rest of the top 10 importers are all in red, with United States having the biggest negative trade balance, some $220 million. Now moving on to the imported quantity column, Bangladesh is the biggest one with some 687,000 tons with an average unit value of $250 per ton. But again, I want to remind you that this value is not the selling price, and if you're asking yourselves about this huge difference between the imported value and the imported quantity of Bangladesh, in respect with those from the United States, well, if you ask me, most probably the quality of the onion is responsible for this big contrast. For the trend between 2016 and 2020 concerning value, this was again up 6% worldwide, with Malaysia having 5% annual growth. We have Germany with 7% and Bangladesh having 31%, which is huge if you ask me, and for sure the Indian exporters are very, very happy with this, not necessarily in terms of value, but in terms of volume. Now, relative to the average distance from the exporting country, overall we're close to 3,000 kilometers or 1,900 miles. And I think it's safe to say here that below 2.5, 3,000 kilometers, we're talking about land transport. And what's above, we have maritime transport, like in the case here with Malaysia, who has an average of 5,000 kilometers. Now, for the estimated average tariff applied by these countries, we have here 0 and 1% for Malaysia and the United States respectively, while for Bangladesh, the figure is close to 13%, which is pretty much considering the fact that we're talking about a country who is basically a net importer. And even most importantly, because we're talking about staples food, but then again, this was their fiscal policy for 2020, so no further comments here. And guys, now that I've shown you the main onion importers and exporters, I would like to show you also some data coming from FAOSTAT that I've plotted. And basically, we have here the biggest exporters in the world: China, India, Mexico, and the Netherlands, which cumulatively for 2020 managed some 50% of the exports worldwide. And basically here I've plotted a couple of variables like, I don't know, area harvested, export quantity, we have production, trade balance, and yield. And the findings are as follows. Well, all of them have a positive trade balance, with the Netherlands dominating. In terms of area harvested and production, China and India are dwarfing Mexico and the Netherlands. But in terms of yield, the roles are somehow swapping, and we have the Netherlands and Mexico leading the way. And guys, here I'm pretty sure that, I don't know, technological excellence in the agri-sector is paying its dividends, especially for the Netherlands. So wrapping up these indicators from the chart, I think it is safe to say that we have a good idea about how production and exports work for these four countries. And of course, a very important thing to consider here is the relation between trade balance, production, area harvested, and the demand in the local market. And here I would dare to say that also the export markets play a crucial role. And let's not forget the markets to whom Mexico and the Netherlands are exporting to, for example. And we have the United States and Europe mainly, in which modern trade retailers want certified and calibrated products who look good and have a longer shelf life. But anyways, now moving on with the video, I will want to focus a little bit on the star of the onion exports, if you want, which is the Netherlands, in order to see together who are the main export markets, as I have a fixation with the Netherlands, as this relatively small country managed to reach astonishing results from, I don't know, logistics excellency and Europe's imports and exports gateway to agriculture and semiconductors. And for me, at least, it's mind-blowing how they've managed to move away from the so-called Dutch disease from the mid-1970s to, I don't know, anticipating trends and prepare for these ones, which for me, guys, this is the definition of vision. which few other countries can brag about. But anyways, coming back to the exports of Netherlands, and I will try to be brief here. The United Kingdom is the biggest destination, which is followed by Germany, and we have on the third place Senegal with some $68.2 million. Now, in terms of growth in value, at least for 2016-2020 time frame in Europe, Belgium and Poland had the biggest growth. In Africa, Cote d'Ivoire with 19%, and in Southeast Asia, the Philippines had the biggest growth. We have here an average of 33% per year, even if they are imposing an estimated 40% tariff on the imports coming from the Netherlands. So guys, quite diversified the exports from the Netherlands for onions. For sure, they have big comparative advantages in, I don't know, in terms of production cycles, lead time, quality, quantity, price, and let's not forget about the logistics performance. And let's face it, all these strengths combined are making from the Netherlands a formidable player, not only in terms of onion exports, but as I've mentioned earlier, for a variety of other products. Also, here it's worth to mention the fact that there is an onion association in the Netherlands in which the growers, the packers, exporters, and the logistics companies work together and, of course, benefit from this fruitful collaboration, leveraging the power of all in order to have a higher bargaining power and, of course, strike better deals. And as in the case with big unionized producers or, I don't know, industry associations, this could also lead to price gouging. But then again, this is not the scope of this video. So I'll move on to another big market, which is the United States. And here I have some data for 2021, and I wanted to share it with you in order to see together the biggest gateways for the US imports from Mexico, which is by far the largest supplier of onions to the United States. And basically, as expected, it all comes down to the states bordering Mexico, so California, Texas, and Arizona, which combined make up for almost all the imports from Mexico. And from these three particular states, San Diego County is the main gateway with some $188 million worth of imports. And guys, speaking of San Diego, I've managed to get my hands on the monthly data for the imports, again for 2021. And here you have the volumes imported together with the price. And plotting these two variables, we have this nice chart in which we see how the market is working. And basically, when you have large supply volumes, the price is down, as we can see for the month of May. And when the supply is down, the price is going up beautifully, almost 50 cents per kilo, as we can see for the months of September, October, November, and December. And guys, with this being covered and rapidly approaching the end of this video, for those of you working in the field, I want you to give you a couple of potential export markets in order to have a general idea about future growth. And of course, what I am about to say is based on my own findings and I might not be accurate enough, so please use your own insights before reaching a conclusion. And here basically I've identified the two main regions, Middle East and Africa, with an outlier, if you want, in Singapore, representing a potential market for Southeast Asia, an excellent destination for Chinese, Indian, and Pakistani onion exporters. But anyways, coming back to the two main regions, for Middle East, potential export markets are the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, and Bahrain. Again, good potential markets for Indian, Chinese, and Pakistani exporters. While for the European and North African exporters, I've identified three countries on the western part of Africa. And these are Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, and Mauritania. Again, I'm not saying that these are the only ones, but from my personal point of view, these represent good export potential both in terms of value and volume. And guys, before I put an end to this relatively long video, I can't help myself mentioning the effects of the current freight rates on trading internationally the onions, as their value to weight ratio is pretty low. and the transport price will determine the exportability, if you want, of the onions, especially for the Chinese, Indian, and Pakistani onion exporters. On the other hand, Mexico and the Netherlands, for example, are focused more on regional trade, with land transport being the mode in which onions are transported, especially for the cross-border trade between Mexico and the United States. And although here the rates increased as well, I don't think there will be a problem in, I don't know, passing the freight increase downstream to the consumer. And the same goes for the Netherlands, and I'm expecting that, I don't know, regional European trade will have a bigger role in 2021 figures, with some volumes from Western Africa being diverted towards the European market. And guys, with this being said, my time is up. Thank you all for watching. I really hope that you've enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe buttons, and as usual, until next time, keep your busy safe. Thanks.